welcome on into another episode of Getting Well with Terry and Friends, NHL Season Preview Show edition. And today we talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs, my hometown team, I guess you could say. They're the closest city to where I live. So I definitely hear a lot about the Leafs. And I'm always asked, why are you a Wild fan and not a Leafs fan? And I kind of respond with, I can't explain why I'm a Wild fan, but just because I live near Toronto doesn't mean I have to be a Leafs fan. But some people think that's the way it's supposed to go. But hey, to each his own. We all have our favorite teams. Vito, I know you don't live in Detroit, but you like the Red Wings. So
Well,
I guess that's a little bit of a different situation.
I think there's many reasons why you might not like Leafs.
Yeah, and Ian, the same as me, near Toronto, but you're not a Leafs fan, Ian. So I guess you
exactly.
don't like
I'm a Sabre. I was a Sabres fan growing up. Now I'm just a fan of whoever's going to make money for me and cash a ticket more than anything. That's what it's about.
I would say Canes. Ian, I think likes Canes.
Hey,
I like them when I bet on them. It's really betting that's why I've liked them so much, and I've talked so well about them.
Yeah, teams that make you money, you'll end up liking them because they're making you money, even if they're not one of your favorite teams.
Teams which play good hockey, right? Which can keep low-scoring game, I think, and win those games. I think I like those teams as well, and it makes sense.
Yep.
There we go. We'll jump into the Leafs and talk about additions and subtractions. What did the Leafs do this offseason? And they decided that goaltending had to change. They got rid of Michael Hutchinson. Carter Hutton retired. And then they got rid of they let Jack Campbell walk. You can consider that getting rid of or letting walk, whatever you want to consider it. But trading for Matt Murray, injury-riddled Matt Murray, I guess is the answer here for Toronto, and Ilya Samsonov, who's looked good so far in the preseason. It is just preseason, obviously, but he could have a big opportunity here in Toronto. Samsonov, Adam Gaudette, Nicholas Aube-Kubel, Victor Meady, Cal Yarncroc, and Jordy Ben. Jordy Ben is already injured, and as I commented, and as I said on the Minnesota show, and I commented on someone who posted it already, that's not a bad thing for the Leafs that Jordy Ben is out of the lineup. I don't think that's a bad thing, but that's my opinion. Jason Spezza, Carter Hutton, both retired. Colin Blackwell, Ilya Mikheyev, and Andre Kasha, both all went to different teams. So the Leafs will look a little bit different this offseason, mostly in goal, some depth forwards as well. But I don't think it was necessarily a great offseason for Toronto. But I don't think they're one of the worst teams either. Kind of just in the middle, in my opinion. Ian, what do you think about the Leafs offseason this year?
Well, when you look at the Leafs, they didn't really need to do a lot with certainly not with the forward group, other than a few tweaks, a little bit of some depth additions, and certainly they addressed that a little bit with Adam Gaudette, with Nicholas Aube-Kubel, who's actually a nice pickup. Really good two-way forward, is going to be a nice addition to the bottom six. He'll give them a little bit of everything, a little offense, good defensive awareness, and this team could always use a little more of that. Play in all situations, penalty kill as well. Good addition there. And a guy that just won a Stanley Cup. Nice to have that winning residue, on your team, someone that's won. And, of course, Cal Yarncroc, who, I'll be honest, when Calgary got him, they didn't get the return they thought they would get for him. I mean, I don't think he really got the offensive part of his game going like they expected. Toronto signed him in the offseason. And to be honest with you, Cal Yarncroc is one of those players that can also give you a little bit of everything. He's very good defensively. He's got offensive capabilities. We didn't always see it with Calgary, but there's a chance he could be playing in the top six here with the Leafs. Sheldon Keefe has already hinted at that in training camp. So there's going to be an opportunity for him to play with some really good line mates and an opportunity, I think, to really maybe get his offensive game. He can be a 20, 25 goal scorer for you, this guy, and he might be able to get that here with Toronto. So that's a nice under-the-radar signing. I really like that signing by Kyle Dubas, bringing in Cal Yarncroc. Mete and Ben are just, depth defensemen. Mete has just not been able to pan out with Montreal or with Ottawa. Toronto taking a flyer on him. Jordy Ben, same thing, just for some defensive depth. He's already injured, which is why it's very good that they got the deal done with Rasmus Sandin, who was holding out. He now is signed. He was a restricted free agent. There was a contract dispute going on, but that's ended now, and he'll be back in camp. As far as the subtractions, Jack Campbell, the big one, he was actually certainly better than anybody thought when they first got Campbell. He ended up being the number one goalie. He's the reason they let Frederick Anderson go after last season. And now Campbell, though, too much term he was asking for. Toronto couldn't capitulate to it, so he ends up moving on to Edmonton. And the biggest roll of the dice, of course, with this Leaf team coming into the new season is the goaltending duo of Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. Two guys that when they've been on their game and at their best, they've been as good as a lot of goalies in this league. But when they've been off their game, it's been rough. And for Matt Murray, it's not just inconsistency the last few years. It's just being able to stay on the ice. 88 games played over the last 3 seasons for Matt Murray. He's got to show he can be healthy. He's saying the right things. He worked hard in the offseason to put himself in a position to stay on the ice, not get hurt again. The Leafs say he's as healthy as he's been in years. He's got to stay that way now for a full season. We don't know if he's able to do that as well. Ilya Samsonov, it didn't go well for him in Washington last year, but the Capital Blue line's not great. It's gotten significantly worse the last few years. I think that hurt him a little bit there. It's, again, a guy that struggled last year, but Kyle Dubas decided, you know what, we're going to go on the cheap with our goaltending because we're up against it with the salary cap, and we're going to take a gamble and take a risk. And look, if we're watching this video, we're pretty much all gamblers, right? Taking a gamble and seeing that Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov can pay off for me and deliver above average goaltending and find their best game. And if both of them, and even just one of them, find their best game, we don't know who's going to win the starting job yet, then Toronto will be fine in net and still be an excellent hockey team. But it's a big risk and a big gamble. Two guys that we've got a lot of uncertainty about.
I totally agree. One thing I would say, though, is I would take Murray and Samsonov over Colorado's duo. I
agree with that, especially with Georgiev. Yeah. I mean, Georgiev, I said he'll be fine in Colorado, and then I see him get shelled for 6 goals or something the other night in a preseason. It's preseason, though. Yeah. Again, pump the brakes. But, he's
I think Colorado will have a goaltending. If that's any issue for Colorado, it'll be goaltending. Yep. A lot of teams, as we've gone through all these teams with doing the season previews, a lot of teams actually have goaltending questions. So that's kind of interesting. Vito, what do you think? Additions and subtractions for the Leafs? Are you muted?
Well, yeah. What I think overall, what they have done, they basically have changed their goalie as they do always. I mean, very often. I don't think what's the longest one goalie has played there. I don't know. Well, they change them often. So another change here. Will Matt Murray help them? Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one. Well, there was few games for the Ottawa when he plays very good. I kind of like him, But could he be a starter? Maybe that's again a question because it comes down to consistency, right? So with Matt Murray, you know how it is, Mel. He was good in Pittsburgh as well, So he was decent in Ottawa. So maybe with a better team, a team like Toronto, who knows? I mean, well, we're gonna see how it goes. I mean, with Campbell, well, I think it's still a downgrade, from Campbell. I think Campbell is definitely better goalie than Murray. Ilya Samsonov, well, also from Cap. Well, his season also was not the best, but again, new team, new jerseys. Let's see how that goes for him. I mean, yeah, Ian has already mentioned. I don't know regarding Georgiev, or someone mentioned. So that guy also let in 6. Oh, I'm sorry. Give me a second.
Are you all good there?
Yeah. Sorry. All good. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, regarding goalies, that's it. Not sure about Samsonov as well. Ober Kubel, well, he was a decent player. I mean, he came from Avalanche. Well, he's a depth guy anyways. So nothing much to, well, Colin Youngcrook, maybe that guy could play good hockey. And regarding subtractions, all right, so we have Ilya Mikheyev. He was also kind of decent, I think. Hutchinson, not really. Andrei Karsha was not bad time to times. I would say, well, maybe. Yeah, well, well, still not an elite player, but for the depth, I think decent. And well, Jason Spezza, obviously a veteran. So yeah, pretty much nothing happened except I think goalie change here.
Yeah, as Ternsey says, Mikheyev will definitely be felt. I think adding Yarncroc and Abe Kubel, I think I don't want to say they'll replace him, but I think those are two good additions that will soften the blow, I think, from losing him. Looking at the Leafs' top prospects and upcoming free agents, the Leafs prospect pool, Matthew Nyes, Nick Robertson, Topi, Niemela, Pontus Holmberg, and Fraser Minton are the 5 that were listed as their top prospects. Nick Robertson could possibly have a chance of, or does look like he has a good chance of making the lineup this year. Matthew Nyes will obviously have a few years away. Overall, the Leafs prospect pool isn't the best, but as a top team for the last few years, making the playoffs consistently, you wouldn't expect their prospect pool to be all that good. Looking at upcoming free agents, a few guys that they just got this year, like Kampf and Abe Kubel, as well as Samsonov, Adam Gaudette are all free agents. Kerfoot, Engvall, Bunting, Wayne Simmons, Justin Hall, and Joey Anderson as well. Bunting, a UFA. And if he's playing on the top line with Matthews, which it looks like he will again, I think he's going to price himself right out of Toronto. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody overpays for Bunting. But I don't see him staying in Toronto after this year because I think he's going to expect big money. And I don't see Toronto being able to give him that money with the contracts that they have on their team. Vito, what do you think about the upcoming free agents and prospects for the Leafs?
Yeah, well, regarding prospects, don't know much. Regarding the upcoming free agents, well, Justin Hall, sorry guys, still don't like him. I think I said that all season. Nothing has changed. Wayne Simmons, well, okay, Bunting. Yeah, I agree with Bunting. I mean, he had an amazing season. Let's see how this season will go for him. He's definitely with Matthews and Marner, right? So a big year for him, as Terry said. Nico's up. Well, David Camp, not bad. I mean, pretty. I think pretty decent player. Same for Kerfoot. Kerfoot, well, I think Kerfoot definitely a better than some Camp, but Kerfoot also is amazing one. He fits in. I think he fits pretty well in that Toronto Maple Leafs lineup. Like he plays like third line, I guess, right? So he looks good there. I mean, for a third line player, I think he's just good. I mean, very good for third line player. I mean, in NHL, if you look like what all the other teams have. So Kerfoot is, I think, very good. So yeah, I think David want to resign him perhaps. And well, regarding Bunting, not still as Terry said, and yeah, nothing much there. Well, let's see how the season is gonna go, and let's see what's gonna happen.
All right. Ian, prospects and upcoming free agents for the Leafs. What do you think here?
Not a bad prospect pool for Toronto, considering how they've always been a playoff team, Stanley Cup contender all these years. It's not bad. I mean, I would say it's top 12, 15 prospect pool for a team that's as good as, or the Leafs have been for years. It's not bad. It's because they've drafted well. They've gotten second, third, fourth round picks that have developed at an accelerated rate than maybe people thought. So they've got a decent crop. It really starts with Nick Robertson, who, of course, is going to have a decent chance right now in training camp to make the team this year. Pontus Holmberg is someone else that's, piqued some people's attention already this year just in training camp alone. In terms of in the long term, Ryan Teverberg, VT Miettinen, Mike Koster, Wyatt Shingoff, Joe Miller. They're all going to be college players next year, and they really went the college route heavy. A lot of college signings, draft picks from the Leafs. They really value that. Nick Abruzzese, who played at Harvard, is someone that they are thinking might be able to make the team this year as well in some capacity. If not, he'll play in the Marlies and probably be one of the first call-ups this year if he doesn't make the team. One of their fastest rising prospects, no question about that, their second-round pick from 2021 out of Minnesota, Matthew Nyes. They really feel good about his upside a long-term 6'3" point per game at the university level. And just his freshman year, he's going back to college for his next year here now. And he had a great season last year. Power forward, hard to get off the puck. He's got to work on his skating, but he goes to the areas of the ice you need to in order to score goals. So there's lots of upside for Matthew Nyes, and again, he's kept getting better. And a guy that they picked, I think it was one of their first round picks. It was back in 2020. They haven't had a ton of first round picks the last few years, the least. But Rodion Amirov, this is the guy that had the brain tumor, if you remember, and he had to undergo treatment for it. And it's really, put his hockey career at pause. He paused it, essentially. He hasn't been on the ice now for a long period of time. And this is Amirov was someone that they said was incredibly talented forward, great defensive awareness, two-way forward, great offensive skill set as well. If he can recover from this brain tumor, have all the, symptoms from it and after effects go away, and he can get back onto the ice and resume his hockey career, this kid, he could be pretty good as well. So the prospect pool's not bad here for the Leafs. Free agents, Kerfoot, he's already showing he's a valuable guy because they got him playing on the blue line the other night due to the defensive injuries. But Kerfoot, unrestricted. Pierre Engvall is also unrestricted. And of course, he's injured to start the year. David Kampf, who's been, a good defensive-minded forward for them, really good in a checking role. Obey Kubel, Bunting, who's had a great season, fit nicely chemistry-wise with Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews last year. There'll probably be some interest to bring him back. Perhaps Samsonov if he has a good year, but that's going to be contingent upon his performance. But yeah, it'll be a busy offseason next year. These aren't like the big guns are locked up long-term. Morgan Riley and Matthews and Marner and Nylander, Tavares, they're all long-term will be with this team. But, there's still some key decisions that are going to have to be made. Kerfoot's a valuable player. Engvall's a valuable player. Kamp's a good defensive forward. Bunting, of course, has done well ever since he's joined Toronto. And I think you're going to not be able to keep everybody. You're going to have some difficult decisions there.
All right. We will go on along and look at the possible lineup for the Leafs. They already have a few injuries already. So that's not really a good sign, but we'll get to it here. And we'll look at the possible lineup. That's according to Cap Friendly. John Tavares, Timothy Liljegren, Adam Gaudette, and Jordy Ben are all currently injured in some capacity. I think John Tavares, from what I hear, doesn't have to have surgery. I'm not sure how long he'll be out. But he is
3 week minimum.
3 week minimum. Yeah, so he'll be out for a few weeks, and then the other guys there as well. If we look at the possible lineup, Bunting, Matthews, Marner, no surprise there. Kerfoot, Nylander, and Järnkrok, Engvall, Kampf, Ave, Kubel, Robertson. I'm not going to try to say that guy's last name because you just said it, Ian, and it's not Abruzzi, so I'm not even going to try to. I'm not even going to attempt. Except I just did, but obviously it's wrong. But Wayne Simmons and then Kyle Clifford's kind of the odd man out there. And then Riley, Brody, Muzzin, Hole, Giordano, and Sandin. Not a horrible defense if you look at it on paper here. And then Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov in net. I think this lineup would look a lot better with John Tavares in it. I think obviously it's the first few weeks, but I may actually look to there might be value against the Leafs in the first couple weeks. So they might actually not be a team that I run out and back at the beginning of the year. Obviously, we'll have to see, but they're going to be able to score goals, this Toronto team. That's going to be with Matthews, Marner, and still having Nylander and other depth players. They'll be able to score goals. But that might be a fade team at first. Ian, what do you think about the Leafs' possible lineup here? Are you muted?
Yeah, I'm sure Matthews, Marner, and Bunting will stay the same. Although Sheldon Keefe's been experimenting with other forwards along with those two guys here in training camp, but I'm sure it'll be It worked last year with the three of them. I'm sure that'll stay the same. Second line with Tavares out. He's supposed to be the second line center. It looks like they're going to have Kerfoot moving from wing to center to fill that void. Nylander and Yarncroke does seem like a very plausible second line to begin the year, especially because they like what they've seen out of Yarncroke and they think they can unlock the offense that Calgary could not unlock out of him last year. So Yarncroke, Kerfoot, Nylander could be a very good second line, probably a likely second line to begin the year. We'll have to see where Engvall, when he gets back and where he slots in. Probably third line when he does come back. We'll wait and see on that. As of right now, there's a lot of competition for bottom six forward spots here with this hockey team. The third and the fourth line. Zach Aston Reese is battling for a spot. Dennis Malgin, who's actually looked pretty impressive so far in training camp, battling for a spot. Wayne Simmons, Adam Gaudette, Joe Blandisi, Logan Shaw, Kyle Clifford. I mean, it's a competitive race to see who can get a regular forward spot in the bottom six. So that's probably good news that they've got competition. Forward depth definitely is not the issue. The defensive depth is a little bit more concerning because they brought in Jordy Ben for defensive depth, and he's already hurt. Timothy Liljegren is still on IR. Victor Mete, you might have to see more out of him, but you could be starting the year Riley Giordano, TJ Brody, Jake Muzzin, Justin Hall. They're definitely set as 5 of the 6, and it's going to be who's going to be that 6th defenseman. Is it going to be a healthy Jordy Ben? It's probably going to be Liljegren, but you may not be ready. May not be able to start the season with him. If not Ben or Liljegren because of health, you got to turn to Mete or Rasmus Sandin, who again late start to training camp, just going to start with them now after getting the contract done. So questions there about who's going to fill out the blue line, and in net, of course, maybe the biggest risk taken by any GM in the NHL entering this season is Kyle Dubas risking his goaltending on Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov, both off subpar seasons. Murray, the questions about whether he can stay healthy one year to the next. Still some question about Samsonov being that bona fide number one goalie moving forward. So interesting stuff with this Toronto lineup. They're set at forward. There are no worries there. Blue line a little bit more, and certainly goaltending. Murray and Samsonov, they've just got to play well.
Yeah, he could be risking his job.
He is, no question.
Very well. Like if the goaltending is bad, we could definitely see some changes when it comes to the Leafs organization. Vito, what do you think about this possible lineup for the Leafs?
I don't know. I think this team from over 6.5 just went over like 7.5 team. With these two goalies. I mean, they're gonna just need to outscore the other team. That's what they've done all years, all the years. I mean, in the regular season. So, but again, so it's the regular season. Leafs always play good in regular season because they have the firepower. They have good players, talented players, but that doesn't work in playoffs. So perhaps Leafs will do great as they always do. But we have their Bunting, Matthews, Marner. Obviously everyone talked about the lines pretty much here. I like, the Kerfoot in the third line. Then John Tavares is coming back when
about 3 weeks, a few weeks.
Okay, okay, decent, not that bad. Well, still, but he's obviously best years are also past him. But still, he's in that. Well, of course, they can actually find perhaps a better player there. I mean. Maybe. Well, I haven't seen for him like consistency lately. There is good moments. He's still the one. I mean, I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame player, but in Islanders, he definitely was much more in a firepower and offense. But he's a great center. I mean, so yeah, he will be missed in the start of the season, but I think they still will be fine. I mean, they will be again hungry as always. Matthews will come out. Last season, Matthews in the beginning actually was struggling, I think, with the goals. Leafs actually were struggling very badly in last season. In the start, they had amazing these stats. The expected goals was so huge. I mean, but they were losing all the time, and that perhaps was the goaltending in the end. So let's see what's going to happen with Matt Murray and Samsonov. As Ian said, the Murray, maybe those injuries. Injuries is a very hard thing. I mean, it keeps bugging you all the time. So so that's the thing, and Murray can be a good goalie. Samsonov, I'm not sure on him, so I can see them letting in 3 to 4 goals per game. I mean, so that means you expect at least 4 goals from them as well. So that's how I think mostly the game's going to go for this team.
All right. And we will look at the final part of the show, which is looking at the Leafs' last 5 years record and their futures for this year. If you look at their last 5 years, first round exit, qualifying round exit, first round exit, first round exit. I see a pattern there that I think everybody knows about the Toronto Maple Leafs is that they're minus 1,000 to make the playoffs, plus 650 to miss the playoffs, to win the division, plus 170, to win the cup, plus 700. If someone's betting the Leafs to win the cup, I don't want to say call 1-800-GAMBLER, but if you've watched this team for any amount of time,
just setting your money on fire, yeah.
Yes, look at them for regular season records. Maybe you want to take the point total over. They are in the division. Everyone got better in the division, so there is that case. But I could not put my money on the Leafs to win the cup, just because. And you know what? Hey, my Wild haven't made it out of the first round playoffs for a while either. But the Leafs, it's just consistent. They make the playoffs and they just lose in the first round a lot of the time in Game 7. So if you can bet Leafs to make the playoffs and lose in the first round, that is a bet that I would look at. But other than that, no real opinion. To win the division, plus 170, I think they have a good shot at winning the division, but if their goaltending is poor, they could easily not win this division. So plus 170 is not good enough odds for me to jump on it myself. Ian, what do you think about the Leafs' futures and their long playoff history?
I don't hate looking at maybe the division in particular because Tampa's got questions, and will they take a step back? They've played a lot of hockey. They've had a lot of changes, and I don't know if they're going to push as hard to win the division as they've have in years past, and maybe just pace themselves and look to flip that switch at playoff time. Florida's introducing a new head coach in Paul Maurice, a little bit of a change in the way they play potentially because Paul Maurice is more of a forecheck, cycle the puck type of offensive style in the O zone, whereas it's not so much the rush game and the transition game. So that could be an adjustment for Florida. So there's an opportunity for Toronto to pass those two teams and win the division, especially with Boston maybe taking a step back. And as much as we think Ottawa, Detroit, Montreal, or Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo in particular might be better, they're not ready to win the division yet, those teams probably. So there's opportunity for the Leafs to be Atlantic Division winners this year, no question. I'd lean to that at plus 170. Don't like the win total as much, 108.5, knowing that, still some defensive depth issues. Goaltend, I've got to see Murray and Samsonov both play well. So I didn't do really a lot with Toronto from a futures perspective, other than maybe a consideration for them to win the division.
All right.
They are a regular season team. That should be their thing. Winning the division is very possible. We know they play their best hockey in the regular season, and it's after that where things crumble and fall apart. So to me, that would be the only thing I'd look at.
It could be expectations too, how much expectations are on the Leafs, and maybe the players are overthinking it too when it comes to the playoffs. Cornelius asks what NHL play. If you're asking about tonight, I'm not on any NHL preseason tonight. Was looking at the Devils, but the line moved too much. So
some of these big favorites are starting to spit the bit, even when they have you would think, an edge and an experienced lineup and all this stuff. So
Pittsburgh was minus 400 with their entire lineup minus 2 guys, and Detroit beat them.
And they just got outworked by a hungry young bunch of kids from Detroit, right? Yeah.
And then Detroit heavily favored with most of their guys, and then Chicago beats them. So preseason is a weird thing. I'm not going crazy on it. If I see certain spots, I'll take it. Mainly the Wild, but they've been winning. So, but nothing tonight for me. Vito, what do you think here? Futures and last 5 years for the Leafs.
See the spots. The spot is the Wild. Okay, well. The regulars, well, you said pretty much again everything. I mean, we all know the story about playoffs. And that to win the division only plus 170, that's a small odd for the long term. But I mean, if you are, they perhaps can do that. I mean, they perhaps will win the division. I don't know. That's what they do, as Ian said. Nothing too much to add here. To win the cup, to make the playoffs. Well, that point total, 108.5. So, I think that still might be high. I mean, you have like the Leafs can go on the losing streak at some point, but they love to do that. They'll lose like 7 in the, 5 at least there in the row. So I don't know. Maybe they could go under. I don't know. Well, I would not bet any of those. Just I think the market on Leafs is so overrated. Just because everyone loves them, so there's not really no spots to bet on them. So I would not advise to anyone.
Yeah, it's definitely fine staying off. Point total, yeah, I think as we've discussed, the divisions got a lot better. So that'll be my only reason to stay away from the point total.
Capable of being a
like
110 plus point team again like last year, but the division, exactly right. Division around them is a lot more difficult, especially the bottom four. So I'm just going to stay off the win total. No opinion over or under.
All right, perfect. So this is the final live show. The other ones will be done behind the scenes. They'll be posted in the next couple of days. Ian, if you wanted to say anything about any of the other teams, or obviously the Ice Guys season preview show will be coming up as well, so everyone tune in there. But if you have any closing thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, just that we will have announcements in the next few days about the Ice Guys' upcoming season, the premiere date for the new season. We'll be announcing that probably by Monday or Tuesday at the latest next week. Looking forward to that. And it's right around the corner. We're looking at a premiere date either early in 2 weeks from now, right before the opening night, or we might be looking at next week, late next week, our premiere for the new season. So, but it will be announced next Monday, Tuesday. Looking forward to a brand new season of the Ice Guys. Which, of course, Vito will be on it. Terry will be watching. We'll have Terry on a couple times. We'll have betcasts again this year. We've got tons of guests planned, other bettors, other handicappers. A lot of former hockey players will be on the show again, and not just in the playoffs this time, the regular season as well. So it's going to be a great season of the Ice Guys. Can't believe now we're entering our 6th full season of the Ice Guys show. Time has flown by. 7th season overall, but always a good time talking hockey every single day, every single game from a betting perspective on that show.
For sure. Vito, you did a Discord, right, that you're launching?
Yes, I have launched the channel in a Discord for now. I'm not sure, how much people actually use the Discord. So could also do some email subscriptions. I will think about that. But for now, yes, you can find the Discord channel on my Twitter. You can join it. I will have amazing content for all the year. I will publish it throughout the games. I will give out the live bets. There's contests. There will be the cash prizes. Every month, let's say something like, which team will score the most goals in October and how much, something like that. Interesting just to keep people interested in the game. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Go to my Twitter page. You can follow me there. And yeah, Terry, overall, it was my pleasure to be here to discuss as many teams as I could. I also listen to you guys actually when I have not been on, because you both actually are very, very, your knowledge actually is high. And regarding all the prospects, I really value that because myself, I don't know those things. So yeah, thank you guys also for having me here. And yeah, thank you everyone who watching. It was a pleasure.
Likewise, good stuff.
Yep, perfect. Thanks for coming, guys. If you want to find Ian or Vito, their links will be in the description below, as will mine. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the content, smash the like button. Appreciate all the support. Hockey's almost back. Get ready. Lots of money to be made. Best of luck, guys, and we'll talk to you later.